In today's show, Jason Quick of The Athletic joins us to talk about whatever is going on with who is left of the Portland Trailblazers. We'll get into all the on-court and off-court stuff with the team. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard, Trailblazer reporter Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and now also on YouTube. If you are listening to the show and you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please go ahead and do that. Go over to YouTube, search Locked On Blazers, subscribe to the show. I would truly, truly appreciate it. Today's episode is a very special one. We are joined after a week hiatus due to the holidays here with Jason Quick of The Athletic, friend of the program. Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Michael. I'm sorry you're missing the snow event in Oregon.
Yeah, it is 70 degrees in North Carolina. So I wore a t-shirt and shorts on Christmas. It is maybe the other side of the climate change is happening here in these parts. But I am missing the snow. My neighbor sent me a picture of my snowy house, and I was sad to not be in it. Are you snowed in beautiful Southeast Portland?
No, it's warming up. It got a dusting of snow this morning, but it's not really sticking on the streets or anything.
You get to take the dog out in the snow and have some fun?
Oh, yeah. A couple times.
All right, good. That's what really matters. So I'm glad to hear it. Other than the snow event in Portland, mostly the Blazers have been losing basketball games. Let's just kind of start with that stuff. We're recording this on a Thursday afternoon, my time, but Blazers lost to the Jazz last night. Like, what do you make of these last couple games? And can we learn anything from looking at this version of the Trailblazers?
Oh, what to make and what can we learn? I've kind of not discarded, but I'm not putting much into any of these games.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard to.
Yeah.
And when you look at all the games around the NBA, it's really hard for me to put much stock in anything that's going on right now, just because I think everyone's in survival mode and just trying to, being able to have enough players to go out and compete is a struggle for teams right now.
Yeah, literally.
And so I think it's, just being able to field the team.
Yeah.
So I think it would be unfair to criticize or to put any stock or make any judgments about anything that's going on in the NBA court right now.
Yeah, it's a weird time. The problem is, it's like, I agree with you. Like, it's like, if you're playing, CJ Ellaby and Cameron McGriff a bunch of minutes, like this isn't the team you planned on having, right? This isn't the team you built.
Yeah.
But it's also like the Blazers are losing and keep falling kind of further back down the standings. Like they're not going to unfortunately get these back. So it's like these are kind of nonsense games, but the hole keeps getting bigger for them. This was a question that came up a bunch with listeners earlier this week, and I'll put it to you: Is this season salvageable? Like, can they get back and be a playoff team, or like where do you see this heading?
Well, certainly, I think they can get back in playoff contention, just because the West is so muddled around. Probably after fourth place, third place.
Yeah, I think there's four good teams. Like I think Memphis is a kind of a cut above, and then everybody else after that.
Yeah, so I think it is if they get hot, and this team historically has found itself. Obviously, there's different circumstances now, different staff, different roster.
Sure.
But, Dame has always kind of found a gear mid-season, late season. And I think a couple moves could elevate this team. And again, it's not going to take much.
Right.
I think a simple, winning 7 out of 10 or something could vault this team into 6, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah, I think
so.
Yeah.
So it depends what is kind of your benchmark for being a salvageable season.
Totally. I mean, I think both of you and I thought this was like a sixth, somewhere between 5th and 7th in the West, and I don't think that is out of reach. If you were at the beginning of the season, if you had higher hopes, I think the higher hopes are out of reach. But somewhere like 6th, 7th in the West is still within the realm. I'd say.
I think if they make some moves, this roster has to get better to do that. So
right,
whether or not those moves are out there to be made, I don't know, because it takes two to tango, and I think that's what Joe Cronin's biggest hurdle is right now, is finding other teams who want to engage and make meaningful moves. Because again, I think it's really early right now,
right,
in late December, to be making significant moves.
I would agree. Yeah, I think, and also then now all of the COVID pauses and teams having that, like there aren't, no one wants to make big structural changes while they're just, struggling to get 8 available players, So
I think the COVID outbreaks is really hurting the Blazers, not only because they have players out, but because it is restricting probably the ability or willingness of other teams to make moves. The Blazers, as I said, probably other than Philadelphia, are the team with the most urgency right now.
Sure.
To make a move. And so all these COVID cases are really hurting their chances to immediately improve.
You got to assume those everything is still on the table. Like nothing has changed in terms of like pretty much everyone other than Dame. They're going to look to they would consider trading. Is that fair to say still?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the big elephant in the room is obviously CJ McCollum in his trade availability, but his health stuff and then again across the league. I think we're just in a waiting period. I would assume that it happens closer towards the deadline, right? Like we're talking February more than January would be my guess.
Probably realistically, but I think again, Portland has an urgency. It's going to matter. It's going to depend on how willing other teams are to engage.
Sure.
And a lot of that is going to have to be, if teams fall out of playoff contention or their ownership makes a shift in thinking, or if a team gets kind of anxious
right.
and feel like they need to make a move urgently. But I don't think right now is that time.
Sure. Okay. So it could be the next month, but it's certainly not. We're recording this on December 30th. Probably not this week.
Right.
Let's come back in the second segment and talk a little about Damian Lillard. We gotta sort of address the Damian Lillard news. We'll do that in the second segment. But before we get there, let me tell my listeners about Prize Picks. It's the best NBA DFS prop game on the market, offering more NBA props than any other daily fantasy sports prop operator. All your superstar players plus a whole bunch of dudes at the end of the bench. It is daily fantasy made easy. If you haven't checked it out, I'm telling you, it's a lot of fun. I've downloaded the app. Basically, you pick between 2 and 5 players, and you just pick their over-under projections against the projected numbers. You're not playing against experts. You're not playing in a field or a bunch of other entries. It's just you versus what Prize Picks chooses as the over-under from points, assists, rebounds, threes made, etc. All that. Super simple. And if you use the promo code NBA when you're making your first deposit, you'll get a 100% instant match up to $100. So you put in $100, it magically becomes $200, and then you can bet on all your projections. You can, if you're feeling lucky, you can choose to get them all right. If you're feeling like it might get 2 out of 5 right, the odds change a little bit, and you can still win money. Super easy to do. I've enjoyed doing it. I think you will too. Go to PrizePicks.com, use that promo code NBA, or go to the App Store and download the app. That's Prize Picks, daily fantasy made easy. All right. Still chatting here with Jason Quick of The Athletic. Jason, I'll just put it to you straight. Why is Damian Lillard so mad at you?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think, first of all, I think this is really weird that I'm taking up so much of his headspace. I think it's sad to see him like this. And I think it's unfortunate because obviously his feelings were hurt, and I wasn't trying to hurt his feelings. And that's the worst feeling ever, is when you hurt someone's feelings and you're not trying to.
Sure.
But you were there, Mike. You had a front row seat for it.
I did. I think I was sitting in the second row technically, but yes. No, I was sitting in the front row. Literally the front.
You were sitting in the front
literally
row.
a front row seat. Yeah.
Sitting right next to me, pregame before the Charlotte game.
Mm-hmm.
And Damian Lillard broke from his warm up and walked up to me and said, "Did you really write that the Blazers should trade me?" And I don't think I wrote that. To be honest, I think I said, right now, the Blazers should consider everything.
Mm-hmm.
At the point of where they're at in their season and their trajectory, they've reached a crossroads, and nothing should be off the table. I told him that. He turned around immediately, did not want to have a discussion, walked away, and then everyone saw what happened post-game. He was one or two words with every question I asked, and then he, did his whatever.
He said, "That's how it's going to be.
That's
how it's going to be. That's how it's going to be handled," I believe is what he said, which was a surprise.
Yeah.
I didn't.
So, my point is, what if Toronto said, DeMar DeRozan means too much to this organization. He's been so loyal. He's been so great. You're never going to trade him. They would have never had a title.
Right.
What if the Cowboys would have said, "No, Herschel Walker's too big a name. We're never going to trade him." They wouldn't have their Super Bowl titles. I think at the position that the Blazers are in, where they're in, disarray might be too big of a word, but they are staring at some very big questions right now.
Sure.
And they have to decide a path that they're going to take. I don't think they have a clear-cut path on where they want to go right now. And so they need to consider all of their options. Do I think they should trade him? No. I think he means a ton to this organization. I think he's still a very good player.
Right.
But I think they need to listen. What if they get a Kawhi Leonard and bunch of pick type offer? They have to consider that. So, I mean, it's really frustrating and surprising that he has reacted in this fashion. And the whole respect thing and all that. I mean, come on. Nobody's respected that guy more than me. Nobody has looked to illustrate his strengths and his value more than me. So
yeah, you've spent a lot of time writing about what Dame means to the community and why he's special here. To the point where I've even teased you about it, that you haven't written hey, when are you going to write about Dame's loyalty piece? It's been 3 months. When are you going to write it again? So yeah, I mean, to me, the interesting thing, or the sort of surprising thing, is that this comes on the heels of Dame was kind of mad at Shams and Sam Amick for a story they wrote, and then he was mad at Adrian Wojnarowski for a story that he wrote in ESPN, and now he's mad at you for a story you wrote. It's like I don't know that I've ever seen, and the whatever it is, like I've never seen Dame this mad. Like this is like, as he matures and gets older, I've never seen Dame act out like this in sort of the public space. Maybe he's been like this behind closed doors in places we haven't seen, but I've never seen him do this. And it just seems like whatever the situation is, this is the time that he's sort of choosing to air his grievances.
Well, he's also never had a season like this too.
Right. Absolutely. And that has to factor in. The frustrations have to factor in. He got ejected for the first time in his career the last week. He got a tech at the end of the Jazz game and kind of asked out of the game. So like as that was happening,
yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know what he's thinking or what he's feeling. Right. I can't do that. I can only try to understand him, and I don't understand it right now. So, I'm not going to try to inflame this or, I don't want it. I hate that it's about me.
Right.
I hate that I'm involved in it. So I don't want to make it bigger than it is, because this is his thing. It's not my thing.
Yeah. And I think I've said this to you, but like, I have seen you do more controversial stuff than say the Blazers should make Damian Lillard available for a trade. In the 7 years.
And I didn't say they should make him available. I said they should consider everything.
Right.
I didn't say they should put him on the market. I said they should consider everything, including if the offer includes Lillard.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like, and I'm I do this as it's basically a hobby for me. I'm not around it as much. It's not my job. And you spend way more time around it. Like, I don't find that to be super offensive. I find that to be a reasonable basketball. I find that to be a reasonable basketball thing. And I would say it here. If the I don't think the Blazers should maybe consider this before February 10th trade deadline, but they shouldn't hang up the phone on those calls. Like, they should figure out what it looks like. Because it wasn't too long ago when it felt like Dame might ask for a trade. Like, it's the sort of whack part of like loyalty in the league is like, in some ways the team has to figure out what's out there to some extent, or they just have to go all in and give him the contract extension and commit and all those things. Like, you gotta make a choice at some point.
I can't find a better example than the Toronto Raptors and DeMar DeRozan.
Absolutely. Where he was.
I mean, there's it's just right there. Boom. That's why you don't ever say, I'm not going to trade someone.
Yeah. Because that team was successful and good, and DeMar was a multi-time All-Star, and they did something that, they traded one of the best players in franchise history away, and they got the thing that everyone's chasing, is one shot at a championship. Exactly. Let's come back in the third segment, talk a little bit more about basketball. Jason, thanks for sharing a little insight on whatever is going on in that world. Before we do that, before we close out the show, I want to tell my listeners about Built Bar. It's the best tasting protein bar that there is. There's no trick here. There's no hook even. They're just making delicious protein bars. Comes in just a whole bunch of delicious flavors, including limited time offers, always popping up with new flavors at Built.com. If you're me, reaching for cookies and cream, or you're reaching for peanut butter brownie, but you're going to find anything that meets your flavor palette, meets your preferences. They're all covered in 100% chocolate. They got a candy bar-like texture, and they pack a punch. 17 to 18 grams of protein, 130 to 180 calories, 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and no more than 5 grams of net carbs. They're all tasty. They're all healthy. So go get yourself some. Go to Built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15. You get 15% off your order. That's LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. Still listen to Locked On Blazers. Still chatting here with Jason Quick of The Athletic. Jason, one of the things that stuck out to me the last 8 games without CJ McCollum is that Anfernee Simons hasn't really put it together. He hasn't been bad per se. He's had some bad games for sure. And he hasn't been bad per se, but he kind of hasn't seized this moment. What do you do? What do you make of sort of what Ant has been like the last 8 games? Because like I said, he hasn't been bad, but he hasn't jumped into this space that's been available to him.
Well, I think the biggest thing that concerns me with Anfernee, like coming into this season that I thought was really glaring last season, was his ability to handle the ball. His ball security was suspect. Mm-hmm. And I think that's still an area of concern. And when you're trying to make him be a point guard or a person who facilitates, that's concerning.
Yeah.
He gets the ball picked from him quite a bit or knocked away, and you can see him kind of picking up his dribble sometimes or really shielding that. Now, that being said, I have been impressed with his passing. I mean, last night against the Jazz, he made a beautiful left-handed lob pass to Lillard, mm-hmm. that Lillard converted for a lay-in. So I think his passing and his vision, his court vision, has improved, yeah. which I like. But I'm still concerned about him as a ball handler and how easily he's being disrupted there.
Yeah, even when teams don't take the ball away from him, a lot of like teams just get up into his space, and then the Blazers have trouble getting into stuff, and then it's like 12 on the shot clock, and you're making your first cut or whatever, and then they get like some sort of just like bad possessions and late clock because the defender is getting up into Ant and kind of being really physical with him. And I think that was a little bit of the case last year, and they kind of moved him off the ball. They said, we're not going to do this anymore. Like, he's just not going to play point guard very much. And he was, and he's made some strides there, but it's definitely still a weakness of his game. I agree with you for sure.
I think all said and done, that I think this has been a net positive season so far for Ant.
I would agree.
I think though that the number one thing that he will work on this summer is ball hand.
Yep.
I think that has to be the number one thing he works on and improves. And I think that is an area where you can get better.
Absolutely.
And it's something you can do at home. Something you can do one-on-one,
Right. One trainer in the gym. Exactly. It's different than like working on your defense. It's like you can literally go with your workout guy, and Phil Beckner can make you a better ball handler for sure.
Yep. So, but all in all, I think this has been a net positive for Ant. I like what I see from him. Of course, with young players, the thing that holds them back is that they can't do the great things consistently.
Right.
And we've seen him score 26 and then, I don't know, like 4 the next game or something,
exactly.
So, but all in all, 30 games into this season, I think this has been good for Ant.
Yeah, I would agree that in general it's a net positive. Like he's he can pass. He can make reads, particularly when his feet are set. He can see reads that he didn't see in the past. Still, live dribble passing is not really a strength for him, but he can. And I think, to me, if Ant was in another role, like if he didn't play all his minutes next to sort of Dame or CJ or Norm, like other guards like in his size, like his defensive deficiencies wouldn't stand out as much. They feel worse because it's like you're playing next to some other guys who are struggling a little bit on defense, and it's like, oh no, another guy who can't guard. And like, if the roster was different, or if his teammates were different, coworkers were different, it wouldn't. To me, I don't think it would feel as dicey, I guess, as it does.
I mean, I'll say this. I mean, I think one of the decisions this team has moving forward is Ant's free agency.
Yes,
he's going to be a restricted free agent, and right now, I would say, yes, bring him back. I think that's where I would be on him. I think you have to sign him, and not have to, but I would like to see him come back. I think there's still a lot there.
Yeah. I'm willing to wager that he's a long-term NBA starter. Like, I think like if I had to, I don't project him as an all-star or anything like that, but like a long-term NBA starter. And he does the thing he does is maybe the most valuable thing in the sport is he can dribble into his own shot. That is a thing that a lot of, every team, you look at the best teams in the league and everyone's like, they could use one more shot creator. Oh, well, the Suns could use one more shot creator, even though they have Chris Paul and Devin Booker, right? Like it's the most valuable skill. It is just absolutely the most valuable skill. And if you can do that, well, you might make $19 million a year, a la Norman Powell and Evan Fournier and Gary Trent Jr. and all those things.
And I think that's an area too, and why this season has been a net positive for him is because that has probably been the biggest revelation of Anfernee this year is seeing him be able to create his own shot and drive and create, because previously in Portland, all we saw him do basically was shoot the three, spot up and shoot, And so this year we've really been able to see what it looks like with him slashing and creating and driving, the little floaters and stuff. I really didn't know he had all of that. Yeah. And he can really be a beautiful player at times. I think you invest in him and I think you bring him back.
Yeah, I would agree. However, to point out your note is that everything's on the table, and if someone really wants Anfernee Simons for the right price, you have to take the call. I don't think he's untradeable by any means. Please don't get mad at me. All I mean is that it's kind of the way the league it's kind of the way the league works. I'm sorry.
And it's kind of a business.
Yeah, it's oh well. Everyone is entitled to be mad at what they're mad at. I firmly believe that you are allowed to be upset at whatever upsets you. So that's I'll let it go. We've seen a ton of Larry Nance at center. What do you make of Larry's offense? Because to me, his offense is a little concerning to me.
I think the team is finally starting to realize what he brings. Mm-hmm. I think he's been really underutilized, particularly in the pick and roll. I think they need to engage him in pick and rolls more often and allow him to facilitate off the roll.
Yeah.
They don't hit him enough off his slips and rolls.
Yeah. Get him in the middle of the floor as a decision maker. Yep.
Yes. Draymond Green type.
Well, Chauncey Billups specifically, when they made the starting lineup move, and I kind of was like, I don't know, pestering, but asking Chauncey Billups a bunch of questions about, like, you told us Larry Nance was a 5 and now you're starting him at power forward. What the hell? He specifically mentioned Draymond Green. And because I was like, are you worried about Nance's shooting? And he's like, I envision him more as a Draymond Green who does so many things as a connector on offense that the shooting isn't as big of a problem. And yeah.
So I think they need to go to that more.
Sure.
I think, I don't know if it's been that they didn't understand it or there's a reluctance or what, but I think there's the times that they've done it. I can't remember what game it was. It was the New Orleans game.
Yep.
The recent New Orleans game. And I thought they really had some nice pick and roll plays with him. And it was kind of a aha moment, you know, like, oh, shoot, yeah, he can be really good in this role or in this type of usage. But still, I'd like to see more of it because I think he can get that pass and then look and analyze. I think he's a really smart player. But I also think that I would agree in your assessment that Larry's been a little bit of a disappointment offensively because I think he is, I don't know if pressing is the right word, but I think he wants to show what he can do.
Yeah.
And so when he hasn't been able to execute it, he gets frustrated and he's pressing and or trying to show all that. And I think it's kind of manifested into a big ball of frustration.
Yeah, some of it is I think he's been a little bit reluctant to shoot threes and whatever, and I think that gums up the works. But I would like him just to shoot mid-range jumpers if he gets them. Like if he catches it in the middle of the floor, just take a 17-footer. Like if you're wide open, take it. Just shoot the ball. I think there's sometimes when he holds the ball on those, and I know the nerds will come after me, but I'm one of you. I'm one of you people, and I think a wide open mid-range jumper is kind of fine. And I think his free throw shooting has been, he's under 70% from the line. And so then like getting fouled on drives isn't always valuable. So I'm a Nance believer, but I've wanted him to be a little more on offense than he has been. Is there any other?
But I would pin that on the system more than on him.
Yeah. I think his chemistry with Dame,
they're trying to figure him out.
Yeah. I think his chemistry with Dame hasn't come along like I thought it would. Like I thought he'd be plug and play, one of the best pick and roll guys in the league. And I don't think him and Dame have the same, Dame and Nurk have it beautiful, like down to a science. And when it's humming, it's really humming. Obviously, it doesn't always work, but Dame hasn't developed that with Larry Nance. And they've kind of gone to this playground style where they're running a lot of just straight up spread pick and roll and read and react stuff.
Yeah, I think, Chauncey said it a couple of games ago that he told the team to stop thinking so much.
Yep.
And I think he wanted to just become more reactive and instinctual. Mm-hmm. And I think we've seen that help the offense at times. I thought the Charlotte game, the Memphis game, and the New Orleans game before all the COVID stuff hit, thought those were probably their best offensive games in a stretch in a long time, Yeah. And I think it was because he kind of, I don't know about loosening the reins, but as I said, told them not to think so much. Yeah. And
I also think Chauncey
become more reactive.
Yeah, I think Chauncey calls a bunch of shit from the sidelines, and I think he's just calling less stuff. Like he's maybe loosening the reins, just like slightly less hands-on, or saying like more calling concepts. Hey, you go to the corner, and then we'll run it, as opposed to like really specific things where they were trying to get Dame off 2 screens from the baseline. You got to set it up there and blah, blah, blah. It's like some of it is just like, let's spread him out and let Dame be Dame. And as Dame has shot it better over the last 2 weeks, they look like a better offensive team. And this is kind of always what we envision them, right? Is like a really good offensive team that was not very good on defense. And they're getting closer
and again,
to that.
It matters so much for this team that Dame is good.
Yeah.
That he plays at a high level. And I think for the last, 2 weeks, he's played at a pretty high level.
Yeah. I mean,
and that helps.
I think there is a lot of tendency that people are now saying, like, I knew this team wasn't going to be good. And like, sure. But I don't think anyone knew Damian Lillard was going to shoot 30% from 3 for half the year. Like, you might have had your doubts about this team. You might have had your doubts about a brand new coach, about the roster, whatever. Mm-hmm. You might have been a big Terry Stotts believer and think they fell off a cliff. But You didn't peg Damian Lillard to shoot 30% from three for half the year. You didn't see this coming. And the number
and CJ at 40.
Right. Yeah, it's exactly. And it's like the number one reason why this team is struggling is because they used to have one of the 10 best players in the league, and Damian Lillard hasn't been that for the majority of the season. If he is, it changes the calculation, and he's approached that certainly over the last 10 days or so.
They have at least 4 more wins if Dame is the regular Dame.
Absolutely. And if 4 more wins they'd be like in 8th in the West.
Puts them right in the thick of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. The West stinks. And they could, literally the difference in if they had 14 wins or whatever it was, 16 wins, it'd be a totally different ball game. I agree.
Yep.
I think sometimes it is as simple as that. Jason, let's get you out of here so you can go enjoy your last days of 2021. Thank you so much for joining us. Dear listener.
Yeah, but first, Michael,
hit me.
I haven't been tuning into your episodes from this week, but have you told
I have
your listeners about your basement?
This is if you're watching on the video, this is my childhood bedroom. This is the place. It's actually if you want to really get technical, this is the bedroom that I lived in as a teenager after my sister moved out. This is the place where Jason Quick thought I maybe always lived when we first knew each other. When I was a 26, 27-year-old joining the Blazers beat kind of out of nowhere. Well, that's a story for another day. But Jason kind of dismissed me as some sort of weird internet blogger who lived with his family and lived with his mom in the basement. And I did not dismiss it. I said, yeah, that's who I am. That's who I am. Because I'll play along with a joke. And then for 4 more years, Jason really believed I lived here. And here I am, live from my parents' home, live from quite literally my mom's basement. So. Yeah, I've admitted to the folks. It's also like I watched a couple bad Blazer games this week, with replacement players, and I had to stay up until 1 a.m. to do so. So I've been working hard in my mom's basement, literally staying up till wee hours in my mom's basement watching basketball, just like the good old days.
When are we going to see you back in the Rose Garden, Mike?
We are coming back in theory on December 31st, but it is
the
Hawks game in theory. But there's a lot of snow between me and home. We're flying through Salt Lake City or whatever, and we've got an inclement weather report already from the airlines. So maybe we'll be back on the 1st. I hope so. I've really enjoyed my time here, but I'd also love to get home and see home again in 2022. So, Jason, I'll probably see you Saturday, but we will see.
Monday, isn't it Monday?
Oh, it's Monday's game. Yeah. I got all my days back. Too much time in my mom's basement. I got my days confused. All right.
Right on. Look forward to it, Michael.
I look forward to it as well. Dear listeners, subscribe to The Athletic so you can read Jason's work. You can find out why people are mad at him because he'll write paragraphs. You can read them and figure out why people are upset. Also, he just does a great job covering the team and always has. And if you want to get close to the team, there's nobody doing it better. Also, tell your friends to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tell your friends to subscribe to the podcast wherever they already get podcasts. Wherever you're looking for us, just search Locked On Blazers. You'll find us. Appreciate you listening. Talk to you soon.